The word dust in the Hebrew is afar, and it could mean dust, earth, ashes, ground, mortar, rubbish, or debris. And leave your marker here, and we're going to flip all the way back to Genesis, starting in Genesis 2. So flip with me to Genesis 2, and we're going to start in verse 7. Genesis 2, verse 7. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Turn a few pages over to Genesis 3:19. For me, that's just one page. Genesis 3:19. This is God, after the fall, talking to Adam. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. From ashes to ashes is another interpretation of that. Okay, now flip a few more over to Genesis 13. Genesis 13, verse 16. Genesis 13:16. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. This is part of the Abrahamic covenant, where God is telling Abraham that he is going to make him into a mighty nation to the extent of being the dust of the land. This word, afar, dust, ashes, earth, ground, rubbish, debris, mortar, is very significant. It shows that God uses his creation, his dirt, his mortar, has all the elements of life in it. In fact, it's one of my tattoos here. I have the Hebrew word here for dust. Afar is tattooed right here as a reminder to me that this body, this casing, this temple, if you want to call it that, is formed out of dust, and that when I die, it's going to go back to being dust. It's going to go back to being rubbish, that God created this shell, this casing for my soul, for me to be able to use here on earth, but I'm going to return to dust. And that without God, that's all that I am, is his creation, is made from that same carbon material that is in everything. I enjoy the illustration or story. A evolutionary scientist goes to God and says, we don't need you. We have proved that we are able to create life from nothing. We have proved we don't need you. And God says, wow, that's impressive. Good for you. Can you show me this? I want to see. And the evolutionary scientist says, yes, absolutely, watch what we can do. And he goes outside and he grabs a handful of dirt, and God says, what you're holding in your hand right there, that has the blueprint of all creation. The carbon, the atoms, everything in that I created, and from that is my building block. You need to get your own dirt. I love that illustration because within a handful of dirt is everything to create life, is in there. The carbon, everything, the atoms, the DNA, all these different elements, dust. From dust we were created, and to dust we will return. I would argue that it takes more faith to believe that something as complicated as mankind, or even to go simpler than that, an atom came from nothing. If you look at Earth's history, I remember when I was a little kid, the age of the Earth was in millions of years. And now we're in billions upon billions of years, simply because the probability of going from goo to you, or nothing to something, they realize how much time is needed. Nothing goes from chaos into order in creation. That you don't see that happen. You don't see that happen. I could keep going off on this tangent, but God takes the blueprint of his creation, the base element of dust, and he takes from that dust and he turns it into gnats that go throughout Egypt and torment the Egyptians. Let's continue on.